northeastern, to the western part of the country, Mr. Speaker, people who have borrowed in excess of 1,000 times and saved many times and are able now to transact and do business, Mr. Speaker, courtesy of this revolutionary product, Mr. Speaker. I wish, Mr. Speaker, to urge and insist on the President, Mr. Speaker, to continue investing in that particular product and even double the amount which ordinary citizens can borrow, Mr. Speaker. I am aware, Mr. Speaker, because I represent the government side in this house, Mr. Speaker, that on the 30th of this month, such a product is going to be launched. And to the ordinary people that are continuing to borrow and are partaking of this particular product, Mr. Speaker, their life is increasingly getting better. Mr. Speaker, at a default rate of 73% for a GOK product, that is extremely successful. People need to compare what are the default rates, Mr. Speaker, of other government and economic stimulus programs that have been run before. People used to take money and disappear. But at least on this particular product, Mr. Speaker, at 73%, and I know it's going to increase and it will get better, because there are people who disappeared with 500, Mr. Speaker, but at the end of this month, when they see what is going to happen to those that have been diligent, those have borrowed and repaid and borrowed and repaid, many of them are going to be diligent enough and return to this particular product, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, one of our campaign promises which the President spoke very prominently about in this particular speech is a fertilizer subsidy program, Mr. Speaker. That because of that specific intervention, we have added more than 200,000 bags of maize, Mr. Speaker, into the economy. That's why, and it is an irrefutable fact, Mr. Speaker, that today, if you walk into any supermarket in this country, you will buy a packet of funga for anywhere between 145 to 180 Kenya shillings. You know very well, Mr. Speaker, that the obtaining price at the time this administration came into office, Mr. Speaker, was in excess of 200 Kenya shillings. That is what we are speaking about, the ability to bring down the cost of living, Mr. Speaker, that ordinary citizens are able to see, Mr. Speaker, that because of us subsidizing production, as opposed to the lopsided economies that was being run by the cartels who were in charge previously, Mr. Speaker, where you're subsidizing consumption, only benefiting the millers and the big boys of this town who are running big corporations and big farms, Mr. Speaker. The person that we have subsidized and made sure that they are able to produce cheaply and competitively is the farmer of the Republic of Kenya. If you grow across this republic, from every corner, Mr. Speaker, they have been recipient of this particular program. And I am aware, Mr. Speaker, that even as we go into this financial year, that program shall be made better. Mr. Speaker, part of the reason why I celebrate this particular program, Mr. Speaker, is that I know that before the coming into place of this particular administration, previous administration had tried to register the farmers of this country, Mr. Speaker. And they were being given bills of running into billions of shillings, that this is the amount that is going to take to register farmers, find out the size of land that they have in this particular republic. But courtesy of the ingenuity of this administration, Mr. Speaker, using the provincial administration and asking our chiefs and ACCs to go out to the farmlands and register our farmers, this project was done, Mr. Speaker, at near zero expenses to the GOK. And more than 5 million farmers of this country, Mr. Speaker, have been registered. We are now able to tell, Mr. Speaker, what is the size of land under their cultivation, what they are cultivating, how much fertilizer they need, Mr. Speaker. Making policy decision that is driven by data is a key to the successful implementation of any manifesto, Mr. Speaker. And I laud the President for leading that particular effort, Mr. Speaker, because I know with such interventions, Mr. Speaker, the farmers of Kenya can only get better. It is my hope and aspiration, Mr. Speaker, that this program shall be extended to all the crops and not just maize farmers that are doing this under the subsistence farming, Mr. Speaker. I believe that as they model this particular program, they'll make it in a better way, that it shall be crop specific, so that tea farmers are able to benefit enormously from this program, sugarcane farmers, Mr. Speaker, coffee farmers, Mr. Speaker, and so on and so forth. Mr. Speaker, of course, I know for a fact, and this is something that we need to check as a House, Mr. Speaker, is to ensure that our farmers access this subsidy fertilizer at the nearest point, Mr. Speaker. I know because this was the initial test run, Mr. Speaker. Many of them had to travel long distances to go and pick a bag or two of fertilizer, Mr. Speaker. It is my hope, Mr. Speaker, that the Ministry of Agriculture can team up with our agrovets, at least in